Thank you, Karen, for your kind words. I would like to thank some other people who have been very important in my surgical life. First, my uncle, who was a general surgeon in Vancouver, was very keen for me to do a surgery residency when I finished medicine. At this time, there were virtually no female surgeons or surgical trainees, so my uncle's support had a great impact. I also was lucky that I spent 2 years at the Cleveland Clinic with Victor Fazio, who was one of the best technical surgeons. Again, I learned a lot from him, and he was very supportive. It was a real loss when Victor died a few years ago. I also would like to thank Bernie Langer, who was the chair of surgery at the University of Toronto. In addition to Bernie being a great surgeon, he's extremely good at looking at new ways of doing things, and he supported individuals who took on new initiatives. Bernie was tough, but surgical training and patient care have moved forward enormously because of him. I want to thank Zane Cohen for being my partner for the last 30 years. Together, we were able to build a great colorectal program in Toronto, as well as being great friends. Finally, I want to recognize Emily Pearsall, who's my research manager and did most of the research for this presentation. Today, I am going to talk about current environmental issues and what we can do as surgical surgeons to help. The title of my talk is Greening the Operating Room. So you probably are wondering why I am showing a picture of the Arctic, a fire in California, a company spewing a large amount of exhaust and huge amounts of garbage when I am talking about operating rooms. However, I hope you will shortly understand how these are related. As we all know, environmental issues have become increasingly popular in the past few years. The conversation has moved from whether environmental issues are actually a problem to having international agreements to help combat the various ways that we are contributing to the troublesome reality. One such is the Paris Agreement, which is within the United Nations framework on climate change. This agreement deals with greenhouse gas emissions, mitigation, adaptation, and finance on a global scale. It was created in 2016, and by 2020, 197 countries had signed it. As you know, the USA dropped out of the Paris Agreement, but President Biden re-signed it on the day he became president. As part of the agreement, each country must determine, plan, and regularly report on the contributions that it undertakes to mitigate global warming. While agreements such as these are essential to taking steps towards helping the environment, it is also dependent on business, organizations, and industry to do their part in reducing carbon footprints. The healthcare system is not exempt from this. If anything, studies have shown that the American healthcare system is responsible for 8% of the country's greenhouse emissions. Another study estimated that the healthcare system in the US is responsible for 10% of greenhouse gas emissions, 10% of smog formation, 12% of acid rain, and others. In addition to air pollution, the healthcare system is among the top 5 contributors of mercury and dioxin emissions due to medical waste incinerators. Thus, it is essential that we in the medical community recognize our impact and the things we can do to help combat these global issues. Over the last decade, the healthcare system has started to pay better attention and track their environmental impacts. Now, organizations like Practice Green Health provide benchmarking tools for organizations to not only see how they are progressing, but also compare themselves to others. As well, there is significantly more literature available on ways to make a lasting difference in increasing the environmental sustainability of operating rooms. While there are hundreds of initiatives to help reduce the healthcare system carbon footprint, today I am going to highlight some of the work we have been doing at the University of Toronto to make our healthcare system, and more specifically our operating rooms, more sustainable. Recognizing that the operating room generates 20 to 50% of total waste in the hospitals, the University of Toronto's Department of Surgery's Quality Improvement Program, Best Practice in Surgery, and the Center for Sustainable Health Systems at the Institution for Health Policy Management and Evaluation joined together to create a guidance document on interventions that can help increase the environmental sustainability of operating rooms. To create this guidance document, a review of the academic and gray literature was undertaken with input from key stakeholders, including surgeons, anesthesiologists, nurses, managers, environmental specialists, procurement specialists, and hospital administrators. For this talk, I am only going to highlight the interventions that are most relevant to practicing surgeons. Although the guidance document covers many more topics related to anesthetic gases and capturing systems, choosing reusable equipment over disposable, reprocessing single-use medical devices, donating unused medical supplies, and many others. I'm going to highlight 3 interventions for increasing the environmental sustainability of operating rooms. The first intervention is reducing unnecessary energy use in the OR. The second is using reusable products instead of disposables. And the third relates to developing and implementing an effective waste management program. The first intervention for greening operating rooms is reducing unnecessary energy use in the ORs. More than half of healthcare's carbon footprint comes from energy use, and the most energy intensive part of the hospital being the operating room. Operating rooms use 3 to 6 times more energy per square foot than the hospital as a whole. This is largely due to use of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system, commonly referred to as HVAC systems, as well as the fact that operating rooms are usually left on full capacity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Lighting and HVAC setback programs are effective ways to increase the environmental sustainability of ORs and should be utilized there. Setback consists of turning off or minimizing all electric equipment, including lights, when the OR is not in use. Several institutions have developed and implemented different setback programs that have been shown to be both better for the environment as well as being financially beneficial. For example, McLeod et al. Found that by turning off HVAC systems in unused ORs at night and on weekends, energy consumption was reduced by half. The Cleveland Clinic successfully reduced air exchanges from 20 times an hour to 6 times an hour when ORs are not in use, and saved $2 million a year. Providence St. Peter Hospital in Olympia, Washington, reduced its energy use by 25,000 kilowatts per hour and is saving $4,000 per year after installing HVAC occupancy sensors in 2 of their ORs. It is also strongly recommended that operating rooms switch from traditional lights to LED lights, as they use 49% less energy and can be recycled, have a longer lifespan, and are more cost-effective. The Cleveland Clinic replaced fluorescent lamps with LEDs in 10,500 coffers at the 6-building research complex, which reduced electricity consumption by 28.6 million kilowatts per year. While these interventions have been shown to reduce unnecessary energy and save money, they can be challenging to implement. They require facility-level physical changes and upfront costs. The second intervention for decreasing our carbon footprints is to use reusable products instead of disposal products. Many hospitals in the last few decades have moved towards using disposable products in lieu of reusable ones, largely due to cost saving and ease of disposition rather than having to clean and resanitize them. In recent years, researchers started to conduct life cycle analyses to assess the environment impact of using reusable versus disposable products. This is a type of study that evaluates the environmental impact of a product, including the processing of raw materials, manufacturing, distribution, use, recycling, and disposal. Many life cycle analyses have been conducted on commonly used products in the OR, such as anesthesia, breathing circuits, laryngeal mask airways, laryngoscopes, linens, sharp containers, and anesthetic drug trays. Today, I will focus on reusable versus disposable linens. Fazola et al. Analyzed all aspects of surgical grounds from the extraction of fossil materials from the earth to the end-of-life disposal. They compared the use of 1,000 disposable gowns and 16.7 reusable gowns that were reprocessed 60 times. The analysis included 6 steps: gown manufacture and supply chain, packaging manufacture and supply chain, laundry, sterilization, use phase transport, and end of life. Overall, the study found that reusable gowns reduced natural resource energy consumption by 64%, greenhouse gas emission by 66%, blue water consumption 83%, and solid waste generation by 84% as compared with disposable gowns. With respect to the sterilization and safety process, studies have showed that there were no differences in reusable versus disposable gowns in preventing surgical site infections. In a study assessing comfort of 2 types of gowns, surgeons and technicians found the reusable gowns more comfortable. There is very limited information on cost comparisons. Overall, using reusable gowns and other linens are much better for the environment without sacrificing patient safety or physician comfort. The third and final intervention for greening ORs is the development and implementation of an effective waste management program. In the United States alone, the healthcare system produces over 7,000 tons of waste per day, with 70% of that waste being sorted as biomedical waste rather than it being recycled, reused, or disposed of properly. It is now known that over 50% of the waste generated by hospitals is from operating rooms. The largest problem with waste in the OR is that it is often placed in the wrong bin, which can lead to increased cost and negative environmental impact. Often, waste from the operating room undergoes high energy processing to make it safe for disposal, causing medical plastics to have an even more negative effect on the environment. Wormer et al. Created the Green OR Committee at the Carolinas Medical Center to reduce the amount of waste generated by the ORs, save money, and assess its success. With regards to surgical waste, they found that a significant amount of waste came from the disposal of single-use medical devices, including staplers, tissue sealing, energy devices, trocars, and other disposable surgical instruments. They placed recycling containers for single-use medical device in every OR, and they diverted 12,860 pounds of medical waste from landfill and saved approximately $4,372 in waste disposal costs in 1 year. They also created an initiative to reduce the amount of unnecessary waste being labeled as biomedical waste, as it costs 10 times more to dispose of compared to regular waste. Through education and making the regular waste bin larger than the biomedical waste bin, they saw a 75% reduction in biomedical waste, which equated to a cost savings of approximately $60,000 in 1 year. While each hospital will need to create a system that works for them and their waste hauler, most medical waste should be separated into at least 5 categories: biological waste, sharps, which should be in a reusable container, pharmaceuticals, radioactive, general waste, and recycling. With regards to recycling, there are many items in the OR that are often considered garbage, although they should be recycled. Studies have shown that 20 to 25% of total hospital waste is plastic. Johns Hopkins has reported that ORs notoriously fill red bags with harmless trash that could be more cheaply disposed of. Much of the harmless waste being tossed into these red bags is medical plastic. In addition to these medical plastics unnecessarily using up healthcare funds and landfill space, plastic waste that is labeled as biohazardous releases toxic dioxins into the environment when it is later processed. An article by Y. Sussex highlights up to 84% OR plastics can be recycled. However, most of the plastics is routinely thrown away. Along with the environmental benefits associated with the recycling of medical plastics in the OR, data show that by implementing this practice, organizations can derive financial gains. According to Practice Green Health's Sustainability Benchmark report from 2010, if a hospital does not choose to recycle the facility, may pay almost twice the price to dispose the medical plastics, as it costs $121 per ton to dispose of solid waste and only $68 per ton to recycle that same material. In addition, as mentioned above, many recyclable plastics are ending up in red bag trash. Red bag trash costs a hospital about $963 per ton. According to Practice Green Health, if we conservatively estimate that 25% of those plastics end up in the medical waste container rather than recycling, hospitals could be saving $5,364 a year by recycling medical plastics. As with most implementation initiatives, it is important to note the process of starting up a novel recycling program for medical plastics in the OR comes with a cost. However, according to Practice Green Health, once up and running, these organizations can be sourced of large financial gain. In fact, an OR Manager article explains the capital funds that are spent implementing a program of this type are typically paid back within 3 to 4 years after the implementation. Many hospitals have successfully implemented medical plastics recycling programs. The Cleveland Clinic now recycles pre-incision plastics instead of throwing them away. This has diverted more than 1 million pounds of plastic from landfills. A New York City institution with more than 40 surgical procedure areas, recycling in the OR has generated an excess of 1,000 pounds of medical plastics weekly. In addition, the Fletcher Allen Medical Center in Vermont achieved a 38% recycling rate in 2010. Fletcher's OR recycling program collects approximately 50 tons of recycling annually at a savings of approximately $6,000. Aside from plastic, studies have also shown a benefit in implementing other recycling programs. Warmer et al. Implemented a battery recycling program, which resulted in 500 pounds of alkaline waste being diverted annually with an annual cost saving of almost $10,000. As well, they expanded their recycling program and included receptacles for cardboard, paper, aluminum, and plastic in their ORs. Practice Green Health created a booklet for hospitals wanting to implement a waste segregation program. This is an excellent resource, and I suggest that hospitals interested in implementing a waste segregation program review it. Moving forward, I wanted to speak to you today about the environmental impact of the healthcare system because I believe that it is up to us leaders to take more responsibility and provide leadership to others to do their part. Our oath of do no harm extends beyond patient care and must include all aspects of our work, including our carbon footprint. While this address has not meant to provide a roadmap to creating a more environmentally sustainable healthcare system, my goal was to make you aware of how our actions impact the environment and steps we can take to help cure its negative impact. I am not saying that we are causing the Arctic to melt or the wildfires in California, but our actions are part of the problem and we can be part of the solution. Thank you.